That exact feeling, the treadmill.
Oh, yeah.
That exhausting, just never-ending social media treadmill. You're sitting there at your desk, you're staring at this blinking cursor on a blank screen, and you feel this crushing, relentless pressure to just post more.
Right. More of everything.
More content, more often, on way more channels. It genuinely feels like the only way to win the B2B marketing game today is to just shout louder and faster than everyone else in the room. But honestly, it's completely burning you out.
It is a guaranteed recipe for burnout, absolutely.
Yeah.
And what's worse, that frantic, volume-driven approach actually damages the exact trust you're desperately trying to build with your buyers.
Exactly.
You're trading your long-term credibility for a short-term dopamine hit of just a few likes.
Right. And that is exactly why we're doing this today. The mission for today's deep dive is it's really an educational masterclass on how to completely flip that script. We were putting down the megaphone and we're picking up a scalpel.
I like that.
Huh.
A scalpel.
Yeah. We're going to focus purely on the mechanics and the strategic architecture of B2B social media marketing. And to guide us, we're looking at a truly eye-opening framework laid out by Frank Heidenreich.
Yes.
He's the Chief Marketing Officer at Whoop Social, which is a platform that helps manage and automate social media. And the guy has over 14 years of hands-on experience. We're talking about a track record of scaling organic strategies for over 230 companies across 14 different countries.
That breadth of experience is what makes this material so incredibly valuable. It means the strategies we're unpacking haven't just worked once for some lucky tech startup. They've been stress-tested across multiple industries, entirely different team sizes, and frankly, shifting market conditions.
So true.
The core philosophy here is captured right in his article's title: Automate B2B Social Media. Post better, not more.
Post better, not more. That is the ultimate takeaway we want to arm you with today. Looking through these notes, the core premise is it's incredibly liberating, really. Automation isn't some magic trick to help you publish garbage faster so you can just flood the timeline.
No, not at all.
It's actually a highly reliable engine designed to help you publish better content. It's about quality control at scale.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we really have to face the fundamental reality of B2B marketing. In the B2B space, content carries significant business risk.
Huge risk.
This isn't like selling a consumer product, say a pair of sneakers, or a fast food chicken sandwich where a quirky off-the-cuff tweet just gets a laugh and maybe goes viral.
Yeah, the stakes are way different.
Exactly. In our world, one mistaken assertion or one slightly inaccurate claim about your software's compliance capabilities, that can deeply confuse your prospects. It can raise serious legal red flags. It can completely undermine your credibility in the eyes of very diligent, highly analytical buyers. The goal here isn't going viral. Virality is often a complete distraction. The actual goal is broadcasting a consistent, high-quality signal.
Okay, let's unpack this. A consistent, high-quality signal. I love that phrasing. But to really grasp that, we have to talk about the mindset shift between B2B and B2C social media, because I think a lot of marketers just get paralyzed trying to apply consumer tactics to enterprise software.
They absolutely do.
If you're selling those sneakers directly to consumers, sure, surprise and delight them every single day with a wild meme or a crazy stunt. But B2B, the purchasing cycle is anywhere from 3 to 9 months long.
Exactly. The psychology of the B2B buyer is entirely different, and your strategy has to reflect that reality. They're making high-stakes, high-cost decisions.
Very high cost.
They're putting their own professional reputations on the line by recommending your product to their bosses. And they're rarely doing it alone. They're operating as part of a larger buying committee. They do not need to be constantly entertained or surprised by your brand.
Which is such a relief, honestly.
It is. In fact, in the enterprise space, surprises can actually be red flags. What they need is to be circled back to the exact same core message repeatedly over that entire 3 to 9 month journey. What's fascinating here is the underlying principle. In the B2B space, credibility multiplies faster than novelty.
Credibility multiplies faster than novelty. If you're listening, write that down. You don't need a new, groundbreaking gimmick every Tuesday. You just need to prove you're consistently reliable.
And because you're dealing with that massive months-long buying cycle, the metrics you use to gauge your success have to fundamentally change. If you're obsessing over likes, comments, and views on individual posts,
Which we all do.
we all do it, but you're measuring the wrong things. At this high level of B2B marketing, the metrics that actually matter to the business are pipeline influence, sales enablement, and partner engagement.
Yeah.
You have to ask, Are we actually moving the needle on revenue?
So what does this all mean for your day-to-day? How do you actually visualize that success if you aren't just staring at your notification tab waiting for a dopamine hit?
Right.
Well, looking at this framework, the dream scenario is so clear. You know this high-quality signal strategy is working when your sales teams organically start taking your social media content and dropping it right into their own email outreach sequences.
Yes.
Or even better, visualize this. You get on a discovery call with a prospect, and before you can even launch into your slide deck, they're quoting your own company's point of view right back to you.
That is the ultimate win.
They've already internalized your messaging because your automated engine placed it perfectly in front of them over and over for the last 6 months.
That is the absolute gold standard. But realistically, you cannot achieve that level of consistency if you're just waking up every morning staring at a blank screen and guessing what to post.
Yeah, that's the treadmill again.
Exactly. You can't just hook up a cheap auto poster, feed it random thoughts, and let it rip. That leads us to the structural foundation of this entire strategy. You have to architect an actual automation operating system.
Yes, and I think this is where so many teams stumble. If you just automate random ideas as they come to you, you're building a house of cards. A slight breeze, like a new competitor entering the market or a change in the algorithm, will knock your whole brand messaging over.
Absolutely.
To build a solid foundation, you need an operating system. And according to this framework, step 1 of that system is rigorously defining your inputs.
This raises an important question. What actually qualifies as a valid input for a B2B social engine? It cannot just be whatever the marketing manager thought of in the shower that morning.
No shower thoughts.
No shower thoughts. The material strictly emphasizes that inputs must correspond with actual, tangible purchasing decisions.
Right. No bright ideas allowed unless they fit the criteria. And the approved inputs are very specific. We're looking at things like product updates, customer outcomes and success stories, webinar topics, partner news, the weekly sales objections that your reps are hearing on the phone, and finally, category perspectives that you can actually support with hard evidence.
Notice how incredibly grounded all of those are. They are rooted in the reality of the business and the reality of the customer's daily pain points.
Yeah.
Take sales objections, for example. If your sales team is constantly hearing, hey, we love the software, but we're worried the implementation will take 6 months, that is a massive flashing neon sign. That objection is a perfect input for your content engine.
It's brilliant because it solves a real problem rather than just making noise. But even if you stick to those categories, the notes say you need a filter. This is where the intake protocol comes in. And this seems completely non-negotiable.
It is.
Every single input that enters your system must have 3 mandatory elements: 1 proof point, 1 target persona, and 1 next step destination on your website.
Let's break that down, because skipping this is where automation usually fails. The proof point is your anchor to reality. It could be a specific metric, a screen grab of the software, a direct quote from a customer, or some tangible artifact. Without proof, it's just marketing fluff.
Right.
Then, the target persona forces you to know exactly who you're talking to. Are you addressing the end user who wants a smoother workflow, or the CFO who wants cost savings? You cannot talk to both at the same time effectively.
That just muddles the message.
Precisely. And finally, the destination. You must tell them where to go next to continue the journey.
Okay, let's unpack this intake protocol, because honestly, this feels like the ultimate cure for blank page syndrome. Think about the 2 biggest headaches that plague small marketing teams. First, you're constantly fighting the urge to publish fluff just to keep the feed active.
Just to feed the beast.
Exactly, feed the beast. But if you enforce this protocol, you completely eliminate fluff, because fluff by definition doesn't have a concrete proof point or a logical destination.
Right.
And second, think about the panic of trying to repurpose an old post 6 months later. You look at a draft and think, what was I even trying to say here? With the intake protocol, you never panic for context, because the context, it's the exact persona, and the specific proof is permanently attached to the idea from day 1.
That permanent attachment is vital for the next step of the operating system, the library. Your content library must be treated as a single, sacred source of truth. It cannot be a messy graveyard of old drafts, orphaned Google Docs, and forgotten Slack messages.
Oh, we all have that graveyard.
Everyone does. But each approved item needs to be stored exactly once, complete with all those hooks and data points we just discussed. And the reason this strict, centralized library system is so crucial is to combat a phenomenon known as content drift.
Content drift. I saw that in the notes, and it sounds so insidious. What exactly is happening to our messaging when it drifts?
It is very insidious, mostly because it happens in slow motion. Content drift is the dangerous phenomenon where your messaging slowly, almost imperceptibly, creeps away from your core category story over time.
Like a game of telephone.
Exactly like telephone.
Yeah.
Why does it happen? Because different team members, or even you yourself on different days, keep slightly rewording the core message in an attempt to make it sound fresh or clever. Over a 6-month period, you've tweaked and rephrased it so many times that the message you're broadcasting today barely resembles the strategic, highly researched positioning you started with.
And suddenly your prospects who are quietly watching you over a 9-month buying cycle are totally confused. They saw one message in January, a slightly different one in April, and by August, they don't actually know what specific problem your software solves anymore.
Precisely. You've sacrificed clarity for the sake of artificial variety. The solution provided here is brilliant in its simplicity. It's called the positioning block. Every piece of core asset in your library must have a positioning block attached to it that strictly defines 3 unchangeable things. Who it's for, what exact problem it solves, and why you win against the competition.
It locks it down.
It absolutely locks it down. And here is the mechanical enforcement. Every single social media post you automate must inherit this block from the parent asset.
Okay.
It anchors the post. It fundamentally prevents the drift.
I love the idea of forcing every single tweet or LinkedIn update to carry the genetic DNA of that positioning block. It ensures your entire social presence compounds over time, building a massive wall of credibility rather than fracturing into a million disjointed little stories.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got our grounded inputs and we have our pristine source of truth library protected from drift. Now we get to the really fun part. The repurposing engine. This is where we take that long-form anchor asset and turn it into social native gold.
This is where we have to address the harsh reality of digital consumption. People simply do not consume social media timelines the same way they consume a carefully crafted 2,000-word white paper or blog post.
Nobody's reading a PDF on their phone while in line for coffee.
Right. If you just drop a link to a dense article, it's going to be ignored. You need a dedicated, systematic workflow to translate long-form insights into social native formats.
Think of your anchor asset. Let's invent a scenario. Say you're a cybersecurity firm, and you just published a massive, highly detailed case study about how you helped a hospital network stop ransomware attacks. You don't just paste the URL on LinkedIn and say, hey, check out our new case study.
That's a tragic waste.
A total waste of an amazing asset. Instead, think of that case study as a battery. It has all this stored potent energy. Your job is to plug that battery into your repurposing engine and spin it out into 5 distinct, highly effective formats that are native to how people actually scroll.
Let's break down those 5 specific formats using your cybersecurity example. First, you have the contrarian insight post. This takes a finding from the case study that goes against conventional industry wisdom and highlights it to disrupt the scroll.
Okay.
For example, industry wisdom says you need more security alerts to stay safe. Our hospital case study proves that alert fatigue is actually causing IT teams to miss the real threats. More alerts are making you less secure.
Boom. That instantly grabs attention. What's the second format?
Second is the how-to post. This extracts the tangible, actionable steps the customer took. Here are the exact 3 protocols the hospital implemented to isolate the ransomware within 4 minutes.
Super practical.
Third, you have the mistake post. This focuses on the pain point by highlighting what the customer was doing wrong before they found your solution. The hospital is spending 80% of their budget on perimeter defense, but ignoring internal phishing. Here's why that budget allocation is a fatal flaw.
Ouch. The mistake post hits right in the pain points. I feel like that one would get a lot of silent nods from IT directors reading it.
Exactly. They recognize their own mistakes. Fourth is the short story post. This humanizes the B2B journey. It's not just about software, it's about people. You might write about the IT director who hadn't slept through the night in 3 months because of server alarms, and how implementing your solution finally allowed her to take a weekend off.
I love that.
And finally, the 5th format, the proof post. This relies heavily on the hard, undeniable numbers and metrics achieved. Reduced critical incident response time by 43% in 60 days. Here is the data.
So you take one single battery, that one case study, and you power 5 completely different, unique messages. And because they're formatted differently, it doesn't sound like you're just repeating yourself like a broken record, even though the core message is identical. But looking at the notes, to really make this work, we have to adapt the writing to the specific channel we're on.
We do, and this is where we need to look closely at the data. If we look at the 2022 B2B content marketing benchmarks, the platform landscape is starkly clear. 96% of B2B content marketers use LinkedIn. It is the undisputed heavyweight champion of the B2B world. Following that, 76% use Facebook, 70% use Twitter, 65% use YouTube, 57% use Instagram, and a mere 9% use TikTok.
96% on LinkedIn. So if you're a B2B marketer, LinkedIn isn't just an option, it is your primary battlefield. And the rule of thumb the framework gives us for LinkedIn-first writing is crucial. You have to write for skim speed.
Skim speed.
Right. Picture your buyer. They're scrolling fast between Zoom meetings. You need a punchy opening line to stop their thumb. And most importantly, you must stick to one idea per post. Do not try to cram the contrarian insight, the how-to, and the proof all into one massive update. It's just too dense.
That restraint, enforcing one single idea per post, is actually the secret sauce that makes the repurposing engine work. But here's where it gets counterintuitive. I want to push on this concept, because the framework suggests that by taking one core message and rotating it through those 5 different formats, small teams actually achieve higher quality engagement by posting less often.
Okay, hold on. Let me play devil's advocate for a second. Less often. Doesn't that completely go against everything we're told about feeding the algorithm? If I'm a small team trying to punch above my weight, shouldn't I be using automation to post 3 times a day just to guarantee I get seen?
It's a really common fear, but it's fundamentally flawed for B2B. Yes, you post less often overall, but you execute with much more strategic repetition of the right message. Remember that buying committee we discussed?
The ones that take 9 months to buy.
Right. They are insanely busy. They are distracted. Seeing the exact same core truth presented as a mistake post on a Tuesday, and then encountering that same truth framed as a how-to post the following Thursday is what helps them actually internalize and remember the message.
That makes total sense.
The strategic repetition of the core truth, disguised in different contextual formats, is what actually penetrates the B2B consciousness. Blasting them with 15 totally different disconnected ideas a week just creates noise.
It's brilliant when you frame it like that. It feels like your brand is everywhere and you're covering all your bases, but you're really just highly efficiently rotating your absolute strongest assets. But of course, once you build this beautiful engine and draft all these posts, you have to actually schedule them. Which brings us to a massive hurdle: bulletproofing distribution and governance. Or, as I like to think of it, keeping the human in the loop so the robots don't accidentally ruin your company's reputation overnight.
That's a very visceral but very accurate way to frame it. The framework emphasizes that the distribution phase must be, and I quote, boring and reliable. You are building a mechanized system, and any good system must be specifically designed to handle its own failure modes elegantly.
Because things will fail. Software glitches, APIs disconnect. So how do we actually design for these failure modes? The notes outline 3 big ones you have to lock down. First is deduplication.
Crucial step.
Think about the nightmare scenario. Your automated system glitches and accidentally blasts out the exact same webinar promo 14 times in a row overnight. Your boss wakes up, looks at LinkedIn, and sees you spamming the entire industry. You solve this by assigning unique post IDs tied back to your library record. The system must automatically check, has this specific ID been published to this specific channel already? If yes, halt immediately.
The second massive failure mode is link integrity. In the consumer space, a broken link is annoying. In B2B, a broken URL isn't just an oops, it actively leaks credibility.
Makes you look amateur.
Exactly. If a CFO clicks your thought leadership piece and gets a 404 error, they instantly subconsciously associate your brand with being broken or poorly managed. You need to enforce one canonical link per asset and have the system validated before publishing. And crucially, this validation step is where you must attach your UTM parameters consistently so you can actually track which themes and formats are influencing your traffic later on.
The emotional dread of a broken link on a huge launch day, I've been there, it's awful. And the third failure mode, time zone control. If you're automating, you want to make sure your brilliant, highly crafted, contrarian insight post actually hits the timeline during business hours for your specific target market, not at 3 a.m. on a Sunday when everyone is asleep.
Right.
You have to lock a default time zone per account so your scheduled times convert properly. It sounds like basic IT housekeeping, but it's the boring and reliable stuff that literally saves your trust.
It really does. But once those technical mechanics are reliable, we have to make the critical strategic division of labor. What exactly do we confidently hand over to the automation, and what do we keep firmly grasped in human hands? The golden rule here is automate the repetitive, low-risk, high-volume tasks.
Right. So if you're using AI generators like the specific tools a platform like Whoop Social offers, you can confidently automate the generation of ideas related to your customers' pain points. You can automate drafting those 5 variants, the how-to, the mistake, the story based on your core asset. You can automate the routine circulation of evergreen statistics from an old webinar. AI is absolutely amazing at doing the heavy lifting to speed up those first drafts and schedule them into the empty slots on your calendar.
However, we must draw a hard, unforgiving line. What must remain human are the interactions that carry nuance, empathy, and severe downside risk.
Yes.
Direct messages, replies to comments in a heated thread, sensitive company announcements like a change in leadership, nuanced pricing discussions, and absolutely any form of crisis response. The intent, the context, and the tone in these specific areas can evolve in seconds. An automated, tone-deaf AI reply during a PR issue or a customer complaint can permanently destroy trust with a prospect who is on the fence.
If you're listening to this right now, you might be wondering, okay, but the line gets blurry. How do I know where to draw that line for my specific daily content? The framework gives us this brilliantly simple test. It's called the screenshot test.
I love the screenshot test. It is the perfect stress-free heuristic. Before you fully automate a type of post, ask yourself, if this automated message were screenshotted, printed out, and handed directly to my CFO, or a government regulator, or my company's single most important customer, would it cause an awkward, difficult conversation?
The panic test.
Yes. And if the answer is yes, or even maybe, it should not be fully automated. It explicitly requires human eyes and human judgment.
Okay, let's unpack this further, because this is where the concept of lightweight governance comes in. We know we need gates to catch things that fail the screenshot test. But if I'm on a small team, I don't want heavy bureaucratic gates that require 3 weeks and 4 committee meetings to clear a single tweet. We want lightweight, clearly defined triggers.
Exactly. You want flow, but with guardrails. General educational content that stays strictly within your approved positioning block can flow through the system freely. But the moment a draft contains a specific hard number, a direct comparison to a named competitor, a customer logo, or a bold security claim, it automatically hits a gate.
Okay, so what are the gates?
The first is the brand gate, which is a quick check. Does this post genuinely align with the core positioning block we discussed earlier, or has it drifted?
Then you have the legal common sense gate. I love the name of that. This is where a human steps in and does a reality check. Hey, the AI just drafted a post claiming our software makes hospital IT teams 50% faster. Do we actually have an internal approved case study that proves that exact 50% number? If yes, approve it and let it run. If no, reject it immediately.
And finally, there is the escalation procedure. This is critical for team sanity.
Yeah.
You do not want your marketing team debating complex compliance issues in real time on Slack while a scheduled post sits in limbo and the clock is ticking.
That's incredibly stressful.
If a post involves legal contract terms, highly regulated terminology like HIPAA compliance in healthcare, or specific permissions from a VIP customer, it is immediately escalated to a pre-designated owner who has a strict 24-hour time frame to say definitively yes or no.
And to wrap a nice, neat bow on this entire governance section, you have to maintain what the framework calls a minimum audit trail. You need a permanent record. What exact text was posted? When did it go live? By whom was it scheduled? From what original source asset was it derived? With what specific proof point? And most importantly, who was the human that hit approve?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of corporate risk management, that simple audit trail is completely transformative. We've all heard the horror stories of a CEO storming in, waving a printout of a tweet, demanding to know who approved it.
Terrifying.
The audit trail takes automation from being a terrifying game of reputational Russian roulette and turns it into a professionally managed, highly defensible risk. If the context of the market suddenly shifts, say a global event happens that makes a scheduled post seem insensitive, you can look at the trail, find the exact automated campaign, and amend or retract it instantly without pointing fingers.
It turns a moment of sheer panic into a calm, 5-second administrative check. It gives you incredible speed where it's safe and rigorous human oversight where it counts. I love that. All right, let's shift gears and move into aligning social strategy with go-to-market motions, or GTM for short. Here's where it gets really interesting, because this is about tying social directly to how your sales team operates. Your ideal customer profile, your ICP, cannot just be some dusty theoretical slide in a PowerPoint deck that your new hires look at once during onboarding. Your ICP has to be the actual engine driving your automation behavior.
This represents a profound shift in thinking for many marketers. Your automation strategy must perfectly mirror how your company actually sells its product. The framework breaks this down into 3 distinct go-to-market motions. Let's look at the first, product-led growth, or PLG sales.
Like Slack or Dropbox.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In a PLG motion, the entire goal is to remove friction, bypass the sales rep entirely, and get the user to sign up and start using the software immediately. Therefore, your automated social strategy should reflect that urgency, focus heavily on high-signal how-to themes, quick aha product moments, and tight direct loops to your free trial conversion pages.
Make it frictionless.
Mm-hmm.
But what if you aren't selling a quick $10 a month software sign-up? What if you're doing enterprise account-based marketing or ABM? That is a totally different beast. You aren't trying to get 10,000 signups. You're trying to land 5 massive million-dollar accounts this year.
Correct.
For an ABM motion, the rules change entirely. You actually automate fewer posts. But the posts you do automate are deeply heavily focused on the specific things a risk-averse buying committee cares about: finance-safe ROI angles, deep dives into security and compliance language, and a very steadfast, consistent point of view on the future of their industry. You're playing a very long, very patient game of building undeniable trust.
And the data emphatically supports this focus on high-value platforms for these complex enterprise sales. If we look at the outlook for 2024 B2B research, the landscape is telling. It shows that 90% of B2B marketers use organic social media. That's a given.
Sure.
But more importantly, when asked which platform delivers the absolute best value for their efforts, a staggering 84% chose LinkedIn. That thoroughly reinforces why your enterprise ABM messaging needs to be meticulously tailored for that specific professional, risk-aware mindset. It's not the place for fluff.
And what about the third motion the notes mention, the services business? If you're a consulting firm, a marketing agency, or a specialized law firm, you aren't selling software at all. You're selling trust, brain power, and expertise. So your automation should run heavy on before and after stories, deep, transparent breakdowns of your internal processes, and the hard, painful lessons you've learned in the trenches. By automating this kind of extreme transparency, you're actually doing something brilliant. You're pre-qualifying your leads. You actively filter out the tire kickers who don't have the budget or the urgency to hire an expert long before they ever take up an hour of your salesperson's time.
To balance all of these approaches, regardless of which specific GTM motion you're running, the framework provides a golden ratio for your content mix. It dictates that 60 to 70% of your automated content should be focused purely on exploring the customer's problem and offering your unique perspective on it.
The bulk of it.
The vast majority.
Yeah.
Then, 20 to 30% should be dedicated to proof points, the hard data, the case studies, the success metrics. And only 10% should be pure product pitches or direct promotional offers.
Okay, stop the tape. Only 10%. If you are listening, think about your own content calendar right now. Are you pitching your product, asking for a demo, or pushing a sale in 50% of your posts? 80%. You absolutely have to dial it back. You have to earn the right to pitch by building the perspective and the proof first. If all you do is pitch, they will tune you out entirely.
They absolutely will.
Now, speaking of getting people to actually listen, here's a tactic in the notes that completely caught me off guard, and I think it's brilliant. Peer-to-peer distribution.
Yes, this is about treating distribution as a coordinated, collaborative effort, rather than just a lonely solo broadcast from a corporate brand account.
Let's play this out, because I feel like if I'm a small team of 2 people, staggering posts and coordinating with partners sounds like a massive administrative headache. Does automation actually make this feasible?
Yes, it does, and it's how small marketing teams can absolutely beat massive bureaucratic competitors who have millions in ad spend.
You use your tools to create a revolving chain of strategic partners, friendly clients, and industry micro-influencers. And you use your automation to bundle the content for them. You automate the creation of jointly branded images. You use AI to write custom, authentic-sounding intro text for each specific partner, and you schedule staggered posting dates.
The psychological impact of this is profound. Instead of just seeing one lonely post on your corporate page, the target audience sees this massive, seemingly organic wave of conversation suddenly taking over their timeline. It creates the illusion of absolute ubiquity.
Like you are everywhere at once.
Exactly. The community sees the core message coming from multiple independent, trusted sources. And because you are a small, agile team utilizing platforms like Whoop Social to rapidly generate, brand, and distribute these assets, you can execute this highly coordinated strike in an afternoon. A large enterprise could never do this. It would take them 3 months just to get the co-branded graphics through their legal department.
It is brilliant, asymmetric tactical leverage. Okay, we have covered the mindset shift, The library structure, the repurposing engine, the strict governance, and aligning with the GTM strategy. Now we have to talk about how we prove to the boss that this is actually working. The metrics masterclass. Measuring what leadership actually cares about.
Crucial step.
Because let's be painfully honest, if you walk into a Q3 board meeting, fire up a slide deck, and excitedly talk about how many likes and impressions your last meme got, you are going to get laughed right out of the room. The CFO does not care about your likes.
Nor should they. At this level, likes are pure vanity metrics. The very first directive in this section of the framework is incredibly blunt, but absolutely necessary. Stop driving your social media traffic to your generic homepage.
Yes, say louder.
Your homepage is a broad navigational brochure designed for everyone. If a specific social post promises a deep insight into solving alert fatigue, the link must drive them to a custom, dedicated landing page that fulfills that exact specific promise with a very clear primary and secondary call to action.
You have to maintain the scent of the promise. If they click expecting a cybersecurity guide and they land on a generic, "Welcome to our company" page, they will bounce in 2 seconds. And to track if they are bouncing or staying, we bring back our old technical friends, UTM parameters.
The necessary evil.
Right. But the framework gives us a very strict rule to prevent us from drowning in data. Don't make your UTM structure so wildly complicated that your team abandons it after a month. Only track 4 specific things: the channel it came from, the theme of the content, the format type, like contrarian or how-to, and the funnel stage. That is it. Keep it painfully simple and rigidly consistent.
And if you adhere to this tracking discipline, you will inevitably uncover a pattern in your analytics that is completely counterintuitive to most social media managers. What's fascinating here is that time and time again, posts with merely average or even below average engagement on the social platform itself frequently perform the absolutely best on your landing pages in terms of actual business conversion.
Meaning they download the guide or they book the demo.
Exactly. Conversely, those highly liked viral posts that got hundreds of comments often completely tank the moment users hit the landing page. They bounce immediately.
So what does this all mean? Why on earth does a massively viral post fail to actually convert into a business result?
Because the viral post generated curiosity, not intent. People clicked because the post was mildly amusing or controversial or visually striking, but they had absolutely no genuine underlying business problem to solve. They were just being entertained. The boring post, however, with its average engagement, acted as a filter. It filtered out all the casual scrollers. The only people who bothered to click that link were the ones actively experiencing the acute pain point you described. They had high intent, and high intent is what drives revenue.
Curiosity versus intent. That is a massive career-changing distinction. And to properly capture and nurture that intent, you have to build your conversion funnels correctly. You need a short funnel for high-intent content. For example, if the social post is directly about pricing structures or implementation timelines, the user is clearly evaluating you.
Right.
The link should go straight to a book a call or talk to sales page. Do not put a barrier in their way. But if the post is a perspective piece, a long-form thought leadership concept about the future of the industry, you need a long funnel. Send them to a brief, ungated guide or a webinar summary first. Educate them further. Do not shove a book, a demo meeting link in their face when they're just trying to learn. Over-asking at the wrong stage instantly erodes trust.
Exactly. You have to match the ask to the intent. And once those specific funnels are established, you can report your KPIs, your key performance indicators categorized strictly by the stage of the funnel. This is exactly how you speak the language of leadership and prove your worth.
So how do we break those down?
For the awareness stage, you aren't just bringing a spreadsheet of views. You measure profile clicks, repeat visitors coming from social channels, and non-follower reach. And the concrete benchmark provided in the framework is that a 1 to 3% conversion rate from those social landing page sessions to a next step action is considered a very healthy engine.
Let that sink in, even if your likes are flat. If 1 to 3% of the people who click are taking the next meaningful step on your website, your automation engine is successfully driving the business. That's awareness. Then you have the consideration stage. Here you measure actions that signal the buyer is actively evaluating you against competitors. Are they viewing multiple case studies? Are they signing up for future webinars? How much aggregate time are they spending on key product feature pages?
And finally, you report on the conversion intent stage. This is the absolute bottom line. Demo requests, booked calendar meetings, and inbound email replies where the prospect specifically mentions a perspective or a post they saw on your feed. You don't need absolutely perfect multi-touch algorithmic attribution down to the last decimal point to prove your worth. You just need directional accuracy to know exactly what themes are generating revenue so you can confidently double down on them.
And let's be real, we really need to double down on efficiency right now because looking at the macro environment, the financial reality for marketing teams is getting significantly tighter.
Very much so. The Gartner 2024 Marketing Budget Update highlights this constraint perfectly. It shows that overall marketing budgets have dropped to just 7.7% of overall company revenue. That's a squeeze.
A big squeeze.
However, within that shrinking pie, digital channels now make up 57.1% of paid media budgets. The takeaway: you have less money overall, but a massive portion of what you do have is heavily committed to digital performance. In this environment, efficiency isn't just a nice-to-have bonus. It is absolutely mandatory for team survival.
Which is exactly why automating the repetitive manual drafting work is so vital. The Deloitte Digital Gen AI report covering 2023 and 2024 showed that generative AI tools saved employees an average of 11 hours per week. Think about what you could do with 11 extra hours.
It was massive.
And 41% of respondents explicitly said it reduced their content production costs. That is exactly how you survive a budget cut. You automate the heavy lifting of drafting those 5 formats we talked about. You let the engine handle the deduplication and time zone scheduling, and you save your precious human brain power for high-level strategy and governance.
And that strategy must be iterative and cyclical. The final piece of the metrics masterclass is making the whole process a continuous circle, not just a static document you create once and forget. The framework recommends a strict monthly cycle of recycle, rewrite, retire.
Okay, let's unpack this monthly cycle because this is how the engine gets smarter over time. You start your month by going through the raw notes from your sales team's last 10 customer discovery calls. You literally mine those transcripts. You find the exact words, the specific phrases the prospects use to describe their pain points, and you feed those exact words directly back into your intake protocol for the next batch of content. You echo their pain back to them.
Then you evaluate the performance of your automated posts from the previous month. You recycled a post that generated solid consideration actions on the website. Even if their superficial social engagement was low, you know for a fact they work on the back end, so put them back in the queue.
What about rewriting?
You rewrite the post that got a lot of clicks on social, but resulted in 0 consideration actions, because clearly the promise made in the social post didn't match the reality of what they found on the landing page. The scent was broken.
And finally, you ruthlessly retire anything that reliably brings the wrong ICP, the wrong type of customer entirely into the conversation. If a certain topic keeps bringing in small startups when you're trying to sell to enterprise hospitals, you kill that topic. You prune the tree constantly so the core messaging stays incredibly strong and focused. This entire system is so incredibly robust and logical.
It really ties everything together.
But I have to acknowledge the elephant in the room. If you're listening to this right now, I know exactly what you might be feeling. You're looking at your notebook and you're thinking, this sounds amazing, but also incredibly overwhelming. I'm a team of 1. Where do I even begin? Which brings us perfectly to our final major topic, the blueprint for getting started.
The absolute primary goal when you are first getting started is to avoid building what the framework humorously but accurately calls a zap rat's nest.
A zap rat's nest. And for those who might not be the designated IT person on the team, zap refers to tools like Zapier that connect different apps together. A rat's nest is when you have 50 different triggers firing into Slack, Google Sheets, and Twitter all at once, and nobody knows how it actually works.
Exactly. Do not try to wire together 15 different software tools to automate every single platform simultaneously on day one. You will create a fragile, unmanageable mess that breaks constantly. The blueprint for starting rests entirely on a concept called the rule of ones.
The rule of ones. I love rules that force simplicity. The rule of ones dictates this. Choose exactly one channel to master. Choose exactly one type of content to leverage, and dedicate exactly 1 day per month to batch it all.
And for the vast majority of small B2B brands, that one single channel should unequivocally be LinkedIn. As we discussed with the data earlier, that is where the buying committees reside and where thoughtful positioning is valued far above sheer volume or visual trends. So your first month is not about building an intricate multi-platform web. It is simply about proving to yourself that you can successfully deliver the exact same fundamental message in a dozen different ways without losing the strategic thread.
Right. So you take your one asset, let's say it's a really solid data-backed blog post you wrote last quarter that has great proof points. On your one dedicated batching day, you sit down, you use your AI tools, and you generate 12 to 20 unique post ideas derived solely from that single blog post. And you meticulously assign every single one of those ideas to a specific persona in a specific stage of the funnel.
The psychology behind this restricted approach is critical. The key to long-term consistency isn't having endless, heroic reservoirs of motivation. Motivation fades by week 3. The true driver of consistency is the deliberate elimination of choices. By artificially restricting yourself to one medium and one content type, you effectively reduce your daily mental overhead by 80%.
But let me push back, because the FOMO is real. What if my biggest competitor is posting on Twitter 4 times a day? What if I'm missing out on TikTok? It's so hard to resist the urge to be everywhere.
That FOMO is exactly what leads to the classic fatal error made by small businesses. They panic and they over-automate their distribution, blasting the exact same generic links to 6 different platforms simultaneously while completely underinvesting the time required for actual thoughtful content creation. Automating the distribution of thin, poorly thought-out content across 6 channels is the fastest possible way to generate market noise, annoy your prospects, and yield absolutely zero sales pipeline.
It's just efficiently amplifying a weak, terrible signal. If you want to use technology correctly, use tools like Whoop Social to help you brainstorm those 12 to 20 brilliant angles in a single pop. Get your nuanced drafts generated for the whole month on that one batching day. But then, as we discussed with the governance protocols, you absolutely must put the human back in the loop. You review the claims, you check the positioning block, you execute the screenshot test, you safeguard what AI inherently cannot understand, the nuanced, hard-won reputation of your brand.
Safeguard what can't be automated. That is the ultimate mantra of this entire operating system. It's about using machines to do the heavy lifting so that humans can do the heavy thinking.
What an incredible masterclass. We have covered so much critical ground today. Let's do a quick comprehensive recap for everyone listening so you can take us straight to your next strategy meeting. We started by completely shifting our mindset. We are officially ditching the exhausting more treadmill. We are focusing entirely on delivering a consistent, high-quality signal to our B2B buyers over their long, complex purchasing cycles.
Yes, that mindset shift is everything.
We learned how to build a rigorous operating system, starting with strict, reality-based inputs like sales objections and a pristine content library that actively prevents content drift by permanently attaching a positioning block to every idea.
We explored the mechanics of the repurposing engine, learning how to turn single heavy anchor assets into diverse social native formats like contrarian insights and mistake posts that cater to skim reading without ever losing their core truth. We established the absolute necessity of boring and reliable distribution, designing systems to survive failure modes like broken links and time zone errors. And we implemented lightweight governance, specifically relying on the visceral screenshot test to determine what interactions absolutely must remain human.
We then aligned our automation directly with how our company actually goes to market, ensuring our ideal customer profile dictates the strategy, not just fleeting vanity metrics. We completely revamped how we measure success, utilizing targeted funnels, simplified UTMs, and focusing relentlessly on intent rather than just cheap curiosity. We set up a monthly cycle to recycle, rewrite, and retire content based on real sales conversations. And finally, we gave you the exact blueprint to start tomorrow without losing your mind, the rule of ones. One channel, one content type, one day a month. You now have the complete framework to save hours every single week while building a machine that actually drives real, measurable revenue.
We have spent this entire time deeply unpacking how to refine automation to deliver perfectly tailored, highly relevant, and impeccably accurate content to your buyers. But I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought as you begin to build these incredibly efficient systems.
Okay, let's hear it.
If we project just a few years into the future, and every single competent B2B company eventually utilizes AI to become completely flawless at delivering exactly what the buyer wants to hear, precisely when they want to hear it, will the buyer's criteria for trust completely shift? If the social timeline is perfectly flooded with flawless automated proof points and impeccably formatted insights, will buyers start subconsciously ignoring the polish? Will they eventually begin actively looking for unautomatable human flaws, awkward quirks, and messy imperfections as the only remaining trustworthy signal of true authenticity?
Oh, wow. That is incredibly deep. Are perfect automated systems eventually going to make human imperfection the new gold standard for trust? That is definitely something profound to chew on as you look at your meticulously planned content calendars this week. To everyone out there listening, thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of B2B social media mastery. Go build those reliable engines, rigorously protect your brand's reputation, and most importantly, post better, not more. See you next time on The Deep Dive.